you all hear me? Okay, Kevin, sound okay? Alrighty. Well, everyone, please grab a seat. There's extra seats here in the front if you can't find something in the back. Let's get going. I'd like to welcome everyone. My name is Scott Pinsky. I'm the chair of the Marin Coalition, and we're here for a very interesting program. I would like to thank you for coming to hear us have a program on the local Marin history here at Marin Coalition. We're honored to have to our podium, honored to have here at our podium Herb Rowland, who will be giving us a very personal journey of his family's story here, starting in the 18th century. Herb will be introduced in a moment by Celia Golden, who is the programming director for the Marin History Museum, and I know many of you are familiar with that. If you're not, you should get to be familiar. That organization is co-sponsoring our event here today with the Marin Coalition, and we're grateful for their participation and support. So before we get into today's program, let me just tell you a little bit about who we are here at the Marin Coalition. How many are here for our program for the first time at Marin Coalition? Okay, a lot of hands. So just a real quick update on who we are. We're a 501c3 nonprofit community group here in Marin. We exist to create what we term conversations that matter on topics of interest to the Marin community, such as our program today. This year we mark our 51st season, so we'd like to think we've made an impact here in Marin County over these many decades. A sampling of our recent programs to give you an idea of who we have presented, and I'll do this quickly, but just to give you an idea. Marin County DA Lori Fergoli spoke with a panel of leaders who are working to end human trafficking here in Marin County. San Francisco Chronicle columnist Joe Garofoli was in conversation with Greg Brockbank a couple weeks ago. State Assemblyman Damon Conley has been at our podium several times. We recently had Marin County Executive Derek Johnson, who is new in his position. He came and spoke. San Rafael Mayor Kate Collin and Marin Supervisor Brian Colbert were here last season. Marin Community Foundation CEO Rhea Sue, Mia Willard of COST, Marin IJ columnist Dick Spotswood, Dr. Matt Willis, former Public Health Director here in Marin, and many more. So that gives you a taste of the kind of programs that we have. We hope you'll keep us on your radar for future events. All of our events are posted on our website, which you can go to anytime, marincoalition.org. That's where you signed up if you registered today in advance. And we invite you to check out future events. If you're not on our web broadcasts, or our email list, I should say, and you'd like to sign up for announcements of future events, either go on the website or you can talk to one of us and we'll put your name on that list and you'll find out everything that we're doing. Okay, lastly, our next event is March 12. We will have Jody Lewin. She is the president of Mount Tamalpais College, which I had not heard of until this program got scheduled, and it'll be interesting to hear what she talks about because she administers a program that is affiliated with San Quentin State Prison, where they provide general education AA degrees and intensive college preparation to over 300 people who are incarcerated. So she'll be here to talk about that on March 12. Lastly, restrooms are through that door, left and a right. And finally, to request that everyone turn their cell phones off, if you haven't done so already, so that we don't have interruptions. And very, very last thing, we are recording today. You'll see the camera there. These programs are recorded each time, and the reason is to provide an opportunity for those who weren't able to make it today to see what we present. And so this recording of this program will be on the website within 24, 36 hours. A link to that recording will be sent out to everyone who registered for today's event. And also, if you didn't get that link and you want to find the recording, it's also on the website, marincoalition.org. And anyone who's interested in supporting our group, we invite you to make a donation on that website as well to keep our programs going. Enough about us. Let's move on, and let me introduce Celia Golden, who will introduce our speaker for today. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that kind introduction. Good Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. My name is Celia Golden, and I'm the Director of Programming at the Marin History Museum. It's a pleasure to see you all here and to collaborate with the Marin Coalition on today's talk. I extend a special thank you to Kevin Haggerty for all his help with this event. Before I introduce today's speaker, I'd like to take a moment to highlight the Marin History Museum. We are located in the historic Boyd Gatehouse in San Rafael. It's at the intersection of Mission and B Street. It is the oldest historical society and museum in Marin County, and we have over 200,000 photographs and 20,000 objects. We assist in research endeavors, and we have online archives. You can access a lot of our images and see some of the objects in our collection through our online collections records. We are a membership-driven organization, and we would love it if every single one of you all become a member today. And we have our lovely board members here, and Batman and Heather Shahar and McPhail, who will help that process. We also rely on a team of volunteers to whom we are very deeply indebted. And we have rotating exhibits, one of which is the subject of today's talk. We also have a permanent exhibit on Louise Boyd, who, if you don't know, is a debutante and an Arctic explorer. And I hope that is an intriguing tie-in for you to come and see us at the History Museum. I'd like to take a moment also to highlight our upcoming speakers. So on Wednesday, February 18th, author and historian John Bosenecker will join us to discuss his new book, Bring Me the Head of Joaquin Murrieta. He will separate myth from reality surrounding the infamous 1850s Mexican-born outlaw, Joaquin Murrieta, and his gang who roamed the Bay Area, including Marin. Is anybody here familiar with Zorro? The myth of Zorro, yes? Well, Zorro is loosely based on Joaquin Murrieta. So if that doesn't get you to come out and hear the talk, I don't know what will. So it's a very loose connection, but he was the inspiration for that character, that very fictional character. On March 18th, in celebration of Women's History Month, please join us to hear two professors from Santa Clara University speak about women's firsthand accounts from the days where California was part of Spain and Mexico. You can reserve tickets on our website, www.marinhistory.org. Now, you might note that our speakers are exploring the Mexican era of the Californio ranchos that shaped Marin's early history. That theme is also at the heart of our newest exhibit, Rancho Roots, the Californio Legacy in Marin, which opened a couple of weeks ago. We warmly invite you to visit the museum and explore this interesting chapter in Marin's past. And now, I'd like to introduce our speaker. This afternoon, we have the rare pleasure of hearing California history told not just from the archives, but from within a living family story. Our speaker, Herb Rowland, is a descendant of the Californios, whose lives shaped this region long before American statehood, and whose choices, fortunes, and conflicts still echo across the landscape we know today. A seventh-generation Californian and a fifth-generation Novato resident, Herb still lives and produces wine on the original rancho lands deeded to his great-great-grandfather in 1840, and from the same house his great-grandfather built in 1876. Please join me in welcoming Herb Rowland.
Thank you, Celia. That was a great introduction. I will try and project, because in addition to being a Marinite, and I am a Marinite, this bolo is Marin County jade from Mount Burdell, oddly enough. In addition to being a rancher and farmer, I'm also a trial lawyer. So I'm going to conduct a little voir dire here. Is there anyone in the audience related to John Charles Frémont? Seeing no hands. Is there anyone in the audience related to Mariano Vallejo? No hands. Is there anyone in the audience related to James Black? Kevin?
Well,
Quit it.
through marriage.
Not hardly. I know the Kinsellas. They're cousins. And that's one of the recurring themes of my talk is how all of the early Californios were pretty much related in one way or another, usually marriage, for good reason, which I will get into. I am going to try and structure this, but I told Celia that I go off track real quick, and if there's something that interests me, I just go with it. I've read countless newspaper articles and magazine articles and books on the early Spanish-Mexican tenure in California. Reviewed official documents, birth certificates, death certificates, lawsuits, a lot of them, marriages, and that kind of thing. And I found a lot of inaccuracies in all of it. There'll be contradictory dates, times, people in various things. So I pretty much stick with what I learned as I was growing up. And the regret I have, and I've got very few, is that I did not spend more time, particularly with my grandmother, on learning more about fun stories. But I did get a lot of them from my great uncle, Tom Pacheco, and particularly from his wife, Maria Pacheco. Aunt Marie was not Hispanic, not Espanol, she was German. A great, big, imposing Wagnerian woman who was the greatest cheerleader for Pachecos of all times. Pachecos could do no wrong, everybody else was wrong. And that's where I got most of my knowledge about the little fun stories in the family. One more voir dire question. Is anybody young enough to remember Galley's Restaurant in Ignacio? Oh, great. Fantastic. Now I pass for cause and I accept this jury as constituted. So why is a gringo-looking guy with a gringo-looking sounding name up here talking about early Spanish, Mexican history of Marin County? And on that note, a lot of stuff that I'm going to talk about tonight is from my Aunt Marie. Totally out of the family, married in, opinionated as heck, and my pronunciations of things like Camilo Ynitia will be Camilo Ynitia. My great-grandfather, Gumasindo Pacheco, is Gumashindo. That's all Aunt Marie, and I'll try and footnote when it's Aunt Marie talking, because she was always positive. She wasn't always right, and she tended towards elaboration a little bit. So much of this talk is going to be oral tradition, which worked for the Iliad and the Odyssey for 700 years, but it gets twisted a little bit. So some dates may be different, some people may be different, but the gist of it is, why is this Espanol, Spaniard, talking to you? Aunt Marie, we were Spanish. Pachecos were Spanish. We were not Mexicans. We were not anything else. We were pure Spanish. Well, let's think about that. And let's start with when the first Pachecos came to the New World. And I'm going out of Marin, out of California, to probably Peru, maybe Mexico. But the first attested Pacheco in the New World is in 1510. Pedro, not Juan Antonio Flores de Vaca, Pedro Pacheco, Pete, 1510. So Aunt Marie we are blood of conquistadors. And that 1510 is pretty early. Yeah, I keep thinking about what was Hernan Cortez's recruitment poster like. Okay, guys, who wants to go on a sailboat trip? You may get scurvy. We're going through uncharted waters. We're not sure of the destination, really. We've heard we're going to run into about, tens of thousands of battle-hardened Aztec warriors. We don't know what we're going to find. It's a civilization that's greater than the European civilizations in a lot of matters. And we may just die there. Who wants to sign up? That's a terrible, message to send, but he got a group, 520, conquered the Aztec Empire. And Pizarro did better, conquering the Inca Empire with fewer people. But in any event, after 1510, the Pachecos gradually moved north through Mexico. So I'm assuming that Pedro was in Mexico rather than Peru, but that's not clear. And one Pacheco in particular, Juan Salvio Pacheco, settled in Culiacan, which is in the capital of Sinaloa in the Sonora Desert, basically northern Mexico. Culiacan had a population of 100, and in the 1770s was going through some tough times. In 1772, there was a measles epidemic, wiped out a lot of the 100. In 1773, there was a flood that washed away all their crops. In 1775, they were in a severe drought. In 1775, here comes Juan Baptista de Antonio de Anza. De Anza was commissioned by the Spanish crown to found San Francisco, to find an overland route from Mexico City to San Francisco and to support the missions along the way. Now, De Anza had a much better recruiting pitch. He shows up in Culiacan in 1776, and he's looking at these people that just had a pandemic, a flood, a drought, and he says, okay, who wants to take a trip with me up north? It's not bad. No Aztecs, no Incas, Miwoks. They're not very warlike. And I was up there last year, no problem. And you get 10 pesos a day, big money in 1776. You get 5 horses, you get a mule, you get a uniform, you get pistols, you get a sword, you get a lance, you get your wife dolled up, got clothes for her too, and you're going to eat real well. Not a bad pitch in Culiacan in 1776. So Juan Salvio Pacheco and his wife Maria Carmen del Valle and their 5 kids sign on. And with 37 other families and 200 other colonists haul up north, starting from Tubac, really, but a neighboring city of Culiacan. They went 2,400 miles. It took 6 months, but they made it. Interestingly, Juan Pacheco, at age 40, fell 40 miles short and died in Monterey before he could found San Francisco. But his 2 sons of his 5 children, Bernardino and Bartholomew, did make it and founded San Francisco. So Juan is the first of the Pacheco ancestors to be a real Californio, The one we can clearest pin down is, yeah, he's my relative. And his sons went on to relative stardom. They settled in San Jose and not San Francisco, although they were soldiers in the Presidio at San Francisco. When they weren't in the Presidio, they were in San Jose. San Jose was better than San Francisco. San Francisco was really kind of a backwater. It was hard to get to. There was no game. The weather is terrible. And so San Jose was where the early Pachecos hunkered down. I mentioned Bartholomew just because he got a huge land grant, pretty much all of the East Bay, and then disappeared from the family lore. Bernardino, however, my great-great-great-grandfather, became the alcalde of San Jose. The alcalde is an official governmental position, part judge, part mayor, the government, basically. And then just kind of disappeared. He may have had only one son, and that son being Ignacio Pacheco. Ignacio Pacheco was really born and raised in San Jose, but because that was the way it was, he was Espanol. He was also a soldier, so he was stationed in the Presidio quite a bit. Now, the life of a soldier back in the early 1820s, 1830s, wasn't really taxing. So they had a lot of time to take road trips. And Ignacio in particular liked to go to Marin County, where the hunting was great. And you can imagine this, this boy whose father and grandfather had come from Culiacan, Sonora Desert to Marin County to see how his eyes would light up. Grass belly high, deer, all kinds of wildlife, great hunting, streams, clear, running, a lot of water. It's heaven. So Ignacio had always had kind of a bent for Marin County. For his service, now mind you, I want to say around 1827, Spain lost Mexico to Mexico and California along with it. So Ignacio really grew up transitioning from Spanish to Mexican. And one of the perks of being a soldier and for serving time as the commandant of the customs house in Monterey, which was a big deal. The customs house is still there in Monterey. It's right by the aquarium. And they have a Pacheco room there in honor of Ignacio Pacheco. The customs house was in charge. All ships that were going into Alta California had to stop at the customs house and pay taxes. And the way things were back then, this is the world according to Herb now. Ignacio probably amassed a small fortune and was able to buy his way into applying for a land grant. There's some dispute as to whether it was Pio Pico or Governor Alvarado of Alta California at the time awarded him a square league of property. It's around 4,000 acres in Agua Caliente, Sonoma County. And Ignacio didn't like that at all and went up and took a look at it. And it was way too close to Mariano Vallejo's rancho. Vallejo's and Pacheco's never got along. Ignacio, Aunt Marie, said he was the worst cattle thief on the planet and used to steal the Pacheco's cattle. The Ignacio's brand was an I, Ignacio, pretty dumb, because it can be forged. And he accused Vallejo of finding a Pacheco cow with a brand I and putting a V on it and stealing his cattle. So Ignacio, in addition to saying, I don't want agua caliente, it's unsuitable for agriculture, wanted to get away from Vallejo. And he came up with a brand which is in the Marin History Museum that is spirals, elaborate, it's about this big, and you could not forge that brand. There's no way on earth you could forge that brand. Of course, when you stuck it to a steer and branded it, it turned out medium rare, but he got out of agua caliente, which is kind of a kick because I am a champion of Marin County agriculture, and particularly grape growing in Marin County. And so I'm always butting heads with Napa and Sonoma counties. But I would love to tell the owners of Chateau St. Jean, Smothers Brothers Winery, and some other really hot ones in Agua Caliente that their property is unsuitable for agriculture, and Marin County is where it's at. I haven't had that chance yet, but I'm working on it. I do have notes here. I am a trial lawyer, but there's only one page and I can't read them. But, so I'm up to 1840 is when Ignacio got his land grant in Marin County, which he swapped for Agua Caliente. The land grant, instead of being a league, square league, was a league and a half. I don't know how he worked that, but it was 6,660 acres. I was at the Marin History Museum's office, and they kindly gave me a map denoting the original boundary of the Rancho San Jose is what Ignacio called his land grant, Marin, after his childhood home. But we've got this hand-drawn. Part of the requirements for getting a land grant under the Mexican government was you had to draw the area you wanted. You had to build a house on it, and you had to have served the government in a military or civic capacity. So Ignacio met all his criteria, but I'd never seen this hand-drawn map of what Ignacio drew out as what he wanted of Marin until Celia and her friends at the History Museum showed it to me and gave me a copy. The original grant went from Nevada Creek in the north to the bay, to Pacheco Hill, Pacheco Valley, included all of Pacheco Valley to the south, all of Hamilton Air Force Base, all of Loma Verde, the Country Club, Indian Valley College, the neighborhood streets,
Domingo Canyon.
and
Domingo Canyon.
10 square miles of pretty much southern Nevada. So Ignacio had his hand-drawn map. He had served civic and military duties, and he built an adobe. Now, Aunt Marie would say it was the first adobe in Marin County. And actually, the first adobe in Marin County was built by Camilo Ynitia, a Miwok chief at Rancho Old Poly. And actually, Camilo Ynitia didn't build it, his father did. So we've got the second oldest adobe in Marin. We do have the first school, though. Ignacio and his wife, third wife, Maria Loretta Duarte y Peralta Pacheco, started the first school in the adobe in Marin County. That one's pretty well attested. Now, mind you, at this time, we're in the 1840s now. A lot happens in the 1840s, believe me. But the population of Marin was around 350. That's just a few more than in this room. So it was now that is they call it the white population. One of the things that I'd like to get into today, but I won't, was what happened to the pre-Columbian population of Marin County. It was devastated. Just in a span of maybe 5 years, it was virtually wiped out. The Miwoks almost ceased to exist. A tragedy, and it happened. So we're in the 1840s. 1845 was a pretty big year. A lot happened. Ignacio Pacheco, my great-great-grandfather, became the alcalde of San Rafael. Big deal. The white and Mexican population of Alta California, which is everything from Los Angeles to Sonoma, was 15,000 white and Mexican total population of California as we know it. The population of San Francisco in 1845 was less than 900 people. Now, what happened in between was the 49ers, 1849, gold rush, things change. Things changed a lot. By 1852, the population of Alta California had gone from 15,000 to 500,000. The population of San Francisco had gone from less than 900 to 36,000. And that put the squeeze on the Californios that had been there before, all that. And in we're now with Camilo Ynitia, the Miwok chief, who, along with Chief Solano, got the only 2 Mexican land grants given to a pre-Columbian. Olimpoli was a beautiful spot, now a state park, right on the freeway there. 8,800 acres, real nice. But in 1852, Camilo Ynitia sold the property, Rancho Olimpoli, to James Black for $5,200. Now, Aunt Marie and actually others, like Frankie Galley and his father, Saul, relate the story of Camilo Ynitia and Ignacio and how they were friends. They were almost neighbors. They owned almost adjoining ranches, but they became good friends. And Ignacio tried to talk Ynitia out of selling Olimpoli, and in fact offered to buy it. But Ynitia said, I've already agreed with James Black that I will sell it to him for $5,200. Ignacio said, that's not near enough. And Ynitia said, well, wait, I want it gold. And Black says he can't get me the gold for 4 years. And Ignacio said, well, that's not right. And Ynitia said, well, at least I've got 4 years to live. And Ignacio said, what do you mean? And he said, well, there's something wrong here, but I want to sell, I want to take it in gold, but you've got to promise me, Ignacio, that you'll save this gold for me. You'll keep it for me, and that I can have it when I need it and want it back. And Ignacio said, yeah, not a problem. Now, about 2 years later, Camilo Ynitia came to Ignacio's adobe and said, well, I'm coming up to getting the gold. Do you remember your promise? And my great-grandfather Gumecindo was in the room and said, what promise? And Ignacio said, well, we're going to be the caretakers of Camilo's gold because he's paranoid. And Ignacio asked Gumecindo if he would take care of it. And Gumecindo promised Ignacio and Camilo Ynitia that, yes, I will make sure it's safe. Sure enough, 2 years later, in 1846, Camilo Ynitia is murdered. And the family lore is that Gumecindo buried the gold on the property that he most loved of the ranch, which is where I live right now. And I've spent the last 60 years digging holes on that ranch looking for gold. One time I dug 1,000 holes and didn't find no gold, but thought, well, I'll plant grapevines in them. And that's how we got the vineyard. So poor Camilo Ynitia dies, 1854. Now, going back to the 1840s, where lots happening. Before the gold rush, and after the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, President Polk and his western expansion really wanted California. And this is not documented anywhere, but it sure makes sense, that he commissioned one of his officers, a very ambitious, well-connected officer named John Charles Frémont, to go to California and stir up trouble, basically cause a revolt, give us an excuse to go in there and take it. Now, Frémont was following the George Armstrong Custer playbook. He had a very influential, well-connected wife. He was an embarrassing self-promoter. He dummied up the name Pathfinder Frémont for himself. And with 42 thugs, ostensibly, well, they were military, U.S. military, but in drag, they weren't wearing uniforms, but they were military, and they were going throughout California, starting in the south, working north, stirring up trouble, primarily stealing horses and cattle, whatever else they wanted. The only thing good about, well, it's not so good actually, but the only thing about Frémont that saved him was his guide and scout, Kit Carson, famous mountain man, and a real spy and investigator, knew the lay of the land, knew people, got them to talk, paved the way. He was the pathfinder. He lived in New Mexico, married to a Spanish doña, spoke fluent Spanish, and was a perfect guide for Frémont, looting California as he traveled north. As he approached San Jose, Ignacio Pacheco got word that Frémont was coming and stealing horses. Now, Ignacio was known for having the best horses in California. He had wonderful horses. We still have the Surreys and the buggy, the Pacheco Surrey and the Pacheco buggy. They're in shameful disrepair, but the hardware's still there and good. And one of these days, I'm going to have them rebuilt. but Ignacio's racehorses were unmatched in California. And that's saying some because everybody, all the Californios were related. By marriage in my family, we have Tanfran racetrack, the Valencias, which my family calls chicken Valencias because they were chicken thieves. And to show how related we are, Cousin Kinsella is a relative of mine sitting right there. And why were they related? Well, if you think that pitch that Cortez made to the men about let's go take on these screaming Aztecs with no guarantees of anything, think how that would have fell to the Doñas sitting in their castle in Spain. Now, do I really want to go on that sea trip and to an unknown country, or would I rather stay here? There were darn few Spanish women in all of California from 1700s up until the gold rush. So those that were there, the families intermarried. We're related to the Picos, the Higueras, the Duartes, Tanfrans, Valencias, Kinsellas, Garcias, Sayases, which is kind of important, and pretty much it was a very close-knit community. And you can imagine in a county where the population's 350 that there wasn't a lot of action, so you took what you could. Okay, we've got James Black buying Olin Poly from Camilo Ynitia. Camilo Ynitia getting mysteriously murdered thereafter. And now comes John Charles Frémont and stealing horses. Ignacio's got all his horses up in Mendocino with Ferdinand Feliz, who, anybody familiar with Novato, Feliz Street. Ferdinand got northern Novato, Ignacio got southern Novato. Ferdinand sold it almost immediately and moved up to Mendocino. Ignacio held on. So Ignacio sends all his good horses up to Ferdinand in Mendocino. So when Frémont comes down right over here, the Camino Real, the King's Highway, and hits what is now Ignacio Boulevard, turns left with his 42 thugs and Kit Carson towards Ignacio's adobe. He's wanting to steal the horses. Well, Ignacio knows he's coming, so Ignacio's sitting on his front porch. And according to Frankie Galli, he also got the 150 able-bodied men in Marin County to the Rancho, sitting on the corral rails and all over the place. So he outnumbered Frémont's 42 thugs decisively. But Frémont and Carson and troop ride up Ignacio Boulevard, turn into the adobe. And the reason I asked if you knew where Galli's was, that's where Ignacio's adobe was. Right at Galli's restaurant, about 350 Ignacio Boulevard.
A place to eat.
And one of the reasons that the Pachecos and the Gallis were dear friends and on, but Ignacio is sitting on his porch there with according to Frankie Galli, every able-bodied Marinite armed to the teeth around him. And Frémont rides up with Carson at his side and says, is that Ignacio Pacheco? And Kit Carson says, yes, Captain. And he says, well, tell him I want all his horses. And Carson complies, and Ignacio Ignacio's dealing with Carson now. He has no use for Frémont. Says, there they are. Now, of course, all his good horses are in Mendocino, and all that's left are these broken down nags, barely stand. And Carson says, Captain, he says, there are the horses. Frémont flies into a rage and says, you told me you had the best horses in California, and look at these. And Carson says, he says these are the best horses on the ranch. And Carson says, what do you want to do, Captain? And Frémont says, Carson, you translate this exactly, and lets off a string of pejoratives and curse words. And Carson says, I can't do that, Captain. He said, I order you to do that. So Carson says, Don Ignacio, because Ignacio was a Don. Mr. Captain Frémont calls you and went through the list. Ignacio, feigning outrage, climbs off his porch. And Don Ignacio Pacheco was about this tall, but he marches up to Frémont and says, you tell that scum that I challenge him to a duel, pistols or swords, his choice. And Carson's starting to enjoy this now. And he says, well, Captain, Frémont says, well, what'd he say? And, well, Captain, he just challenged you to a duel. Pistols or swords, your choice. And Frémont looks at Ignacio and sees he's kind of small, but he's carrying his sword. I'll get back to the sword in a minute. But he's carrying his sword, and he's got his pistols on too. Frémont says, well, I can take out swords. I'll fight him with a sword. And Carson looks at Frémont and says, Captain, Don Ignacio is the best swordsman in California. And Frémont says, oh, all right, pistols. We'll fight with pistols. Carson says, well, Captain, Don Ignacio is the best pistol shot in California. And so Frémont says, expletive, to heck with this. And we're out of here. And rides with his tail between his legs back up to Mendocino. But Ignacio's already bringing his horses back. So that's the story of the duel, June 24th, 1846. And that's attested between the challenge of Ignacio Pacheco to Frémont. Ignacio was a Don. A Don is an honorific title that the Mexican government bestowed on, you had to prove you were 100% Spanish and that you had a civic background, you'd done civic good. And of course Ignacio was an alcalde, and how he could sign an affidavit saying I'm pure Spanish is a mystery to me, but he did, and he was given the title of Don. A Don allowed you to carry a sword and exempted you from hard labor and gave you a little tax break somewhere. So it's Don Ignacio Pacheco, my great-great-grandfather. Now the sword, bless the Marin History Museum for this. The family has donated that to the Marin History Museum to use in their Rancho exhibit. And they go above and beyond. They researched that sword. And I always assumed it was a family sword from Toledo, Spain, like my Aunt Marie said. And it's not at all. It was probably made around 1840, the time Ignacio got his land grant. But it's a German sword made by a famous German sword manufacturer who outfitted the Union Army in the Civil War. And that is on proud display along with the Ignacio Pacheco's brand in the Marin History Museum, along with a lot of other Pacheco artifacts. my great Aunt Mercy Pacheco, who held the ranch together, donated everything. She had two commandments. If it didn't move, paint it, and if it looked like it might move, donate it. So she donated the Pacheco racing silks that the jockeys wore in the many horse races. She donated those. She donated some pretty pathetic jewelry, but that's Aunt Mercy. Okay, now we've got Frémont taken care of. Let's go to James Black. Now, this is a lot of Aunt Marie. According to Aunt Marie, James Black was a human trafficker, an environmental destroyer, a hopeless drunk, a philanderer. Those are the major ones. Now, some of those are true. He was a hopeless drunk. And he did use Chinese labor for their Chinese influx also around this time, railroads, but he commandeered a lot of Chinese labor to build his gardens and roads, and a levee that is one of the first levees in the San Francisco Bay, pretty much around where the dump is now, the Marin landfill is now. So maybe he was an environmental meddler. I don't know about the human trafficking, but there is some indication he exploited the Chinese laborers that he used, didn't pay them. But James Black was married to Maria Sias, a distant relative of the Pachecos. And they got along just fine. They were neighbors and friends of Ignacio and Ignacio's wife, Maria Loretta Duarte. And in a population of 350, you had to socialize. And there are only 350 people, so you got together a lot, and you knew your neighbor well. And you attended the Pacheco's barbecues and fiestas for which they were famous. They would have bull and bear fights. You'd get a grizzly bear from the Sierras, bring it down here and pit it up against a Texas longhorn. I mean, boy. And just the logistics. How do you get a grizzly bear from there to Nevada? Yay. But they were known for their parties and friends. Now, a lot happens in a short time here. In March of 1864, James Black's wife, Maria, has a toothache and goes in to see her son-in-law, Galen Burdell, who married to Maria's daughter, Augustina. Galen and Augustina Burdell were given Rancho Olintali, the 8,800 acres of Camilo Ynietia's former land, as a wedding gift. So Maria goes in to see her son-in-law, dentist. Now, according to Aunt Marie, he was also a murderer, vigilante, and witness briber. Now, the last two are true. The murderer, you be the judge, but Maria goes in to see the dentist, her son-in-law, and he overdoes the chloroform and she dies in the dentist chair. Now, that really upsets James Black. He essentially disowns Galen, but also his daughter, Augustina. A couple of months later, Ignacio Pacheco dies. Now this leaves James Black a widower and Maria Pacheco, a widow. They are the two richest people in Marin County. James Black, when he died, his estate was estimated at $15 million. And when Maria Pacheco died, hers was bigger. So you got the two wealthiest people in Marin County. What are they going to do? 2 years later, they get married. So Ignacio's wife, my great-great-grandmother, Maria Duarte Pacheco Black, get married and don't live happily ever after. They do coexist, but by now James Black, the death of Maria Sias really hit him. And if he was drinking a little before, he was drinking a lot now. I mean a lot. A keg of whiskey, now it's a little keg, it's only a 15-gallon keg, but that would last him 2 days. It's not good. So in 1870, James Black, in a drunken stupor, he fell off his horse, broke his neck, and died. And that leaves his will left everything, $15 million worth of 65,000 acres is what he ended up with, including all of Rancho and Ignacio. He left all of that to Maria Duarte Pacheco Black. Galen and Augustina Verdell pitched a fit. Now there are two stories here. One is when the will was being read, that the executor took the will out to the Verdells and read the will. And the other, Aunt Marie, is during the fourth jury trial. But in one of those two times, Augustina got a hold of the will, tore off James Black's signature, and ate it. Now there's no evidence of who it's left to, so the fight begins. The Verdells sued Maria Pacheco in Marin County, hung jury. Sued him again, hung jury. Sued him again, hung jury. Sued him again. Now Marin County's run out of jurors because they only got so many folks in the county. So they send it to San Francisco, and the verdict comes down for the blacks, yes, split the property. So instead of 15 million, poor Maria only got 7.5 million. But her own estate was bigger, so she did all right. So we've never gotten along all that well with the Verdells or the Black family. Now, one thing that's kind of peculiar, I don't think it's just my family, but I think it extends to the Californios, that in Maria Pacheco Black's will, she left everything to her 6 children, share and share alike. No specific bequest of, you get this ranch, you get that ranch, you get this property, you get that property. It's all yours. And maybe uniquely to the Pachecos, Ignacio and Maria's children all got along. And they all picked a spot they wanted to build a house on and live on. My great-grandfather, Gumecindo, Ignacio and Maria's son, chose a place in Rancho Ignacio, which James Black had owned, which Maria got in the will contest. In 1870, the house in Ignacio, where Gumecindo lived, burned down. So he picked a 70-acre ranch in Ignacio, where I live now. And he picked that because it had really good water. It has a wonderful spring that we still use. It has a wonderful well that we had to redo the well, but it's 10 feet away from where Gumecindo dug a well. And I remember the old well growing up there. And Gumecindo built a house on the Rancho. We still have the invoice, the contractor's bill. This is started in 1876. It wasn't finished until 1881. But the bill for building the house, 2-story, clear heart redwood out of Mill Valley, was $3,500. And again, Marie, first house in Marin County with indoor plumbing. And I do believe that's true, because the old pipeline from the spring, which is in the farthest, most unreachable part of the ranch, still runs. I still use it. And on the roof of this new house Gumecindo built was a level spot and a water tank. Now, when we moved in 1968, we took the water tank down, but it was still functional. So he built this nice house for himself, planted every type of fruit tree you could think of, planted a vineyard, mission grapevines. One of them still survives. We have a 150-year-old mission grapevine on the ranch. And I took some seedlings from that mission grapevine, and I've planted 20 of them in a corner of the vineyard, just to perpetuate it. But a number of the trees that were planted in the 1880s, lemon trees, persimmon tree, a breadfruit tree, a grapefruit tree, orange trees, still survive. We still get great fruit from them. The lemon tree, which is over 140 years old, UC Davis was nosing around our ranch because of the grapevines, and they looked at the lemon tree and said, I don't recognize that. And their agriculturist came down and took a look, and they couldn't identify what species. It wasn't a Myers, it wasn't Eureka, they didn't know what it was. But they took clippings, and they were kind enough to give us a couple, so I replanted those. But I think UC Davis has stolen my lemon tree and has a peculiar genealogy, and they're making some money off of that. So I'm going to check that out.
Herb, can we
Yes.
one more question? We'll do some Q&A with the audience.
I'm almost done.
Okay,
No,
good.
okay, I am done. I am done. Mercifully, mercifully.
Wasn't trying to cut you off, just wanted to leave some time for the audience. I'm sure there are folks that have some Q&A they'd like to ask over here. I'm going to run around with the microphone so that everybody can hear the question. So here we go.
Thank you, Herb. That was really wonderful to hear. I was wondering who Ignacio Pacheco traded the Sonoma land grant for the Marin land grant. Who did he trade that with?
You know, it wasn't so much a trade. It was, here's your property, I don't want it. So it was deeded, not deeded, but granted to some other Californian. I don't know the original owner.
So just give me your hand and I'll come around with the mic.
I'm a geologist. I first came to the States 53 years ago to explore for gold on the Ortiz land grant in New Mexico. It was about 17,000 acres, and I understand after the U.S. took over that territory in 1850, the private ownership was actually on it. not only on the surface but also the minerals that were grounded by the King of Spain a way back. Anyway, it's halfway between Santa Fe and Albuquerque, and that was the first discovery of gold back in the 1830s west of the Mississippi. Anyway, cut a long story short, I spent 2 months there with a team of young geologists. We found a gold deposit that eventually came into production and produced about 500,000 ounces of gold. But it certainly didn't have the family complexity that you've just related over the last hour. One last thing, if you want to find gold on your property, you said you've dug lots of holes. There are geophysical methods of detecting it, and I'll be happy to talk to you after.
We gotta talk.
All right, and Marin Coalition will get a commission, I see. Here we go.
But the History Museum should get a cut.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, cousin.
Herb, I just wanted to let you know, when Irene and Loretta Pacheco passed away, I received the deed for both Olimpali Ranch and for the Pacheco Ranch, which is all rolled up with beautiful, it has all the outline, the maps, and they're colors, you know, on the borders and whatnot, and they're signed by Abraham Lincoln.
My God. Thank you, cousin. I'd love to see him sometime. We gotta talk.
Now we're related, right?
Is that one vine Venus californicus that you have? Do you know which vine it is? From a UC Master Gardener?
You know, on the mission vine,
Yes.
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah, the photographs of the leaves match my leaf.
I'd love to see it.
Just call.
I'll drink no wine before it's
Still
time.
produces good grapes. Well, they're not, mission aren't good. But.
Hi Herb, I'm Teresa Saltzman. I'm a volunteer at the Novato History Museum with our family days coming up, but I was scanning some black and white photographs from Pacheco, and one of them is with the racehorse with two black men. What was their role at the Pacheco ranch?
Well, the quick answer is that I have no idea, but I do not know.
Do you have that picture?
I believe I do.
Yeah.
I believe I do.
So Herb, do a little commercial for the winery. Take over. Tell us where it is and what you make.
Well, back in 1968, and one of the things I was, you know, how did 10 square miles get down to 70 acres? All kinds of reasons. Hamilton Air Force Base was condemned by the government to build an Air Force base, so we lost a huge chunk there. There were a lot of kids, and when it was necessary, property got sold. And in fact, in my lifetime, I was part, and the share and share alike. It went down not just from Maria, but to Gumasindo, to my grandmother. And I have given the ranch to my children, share and share alike. So there were a lot of things that held the property together. Share and share alike being one of them, but also strong women. Maria Pacheco held the Pacheco family together for years. After Maria, Aunt Mercy, my great aunt, great aunt Mercy, strong woman, held the property together. My own mother, not a Pacheco at all, strong woman, held the property together. So there are a number of reasons why we still got 70 acres, but it's a beautiful farming. It's, the climate is better than Napa. Now I'm getting on my high horse here. It is. We're so close to the San Pablo Bay that we get a perfect breeze, which helps pollinate the grapes. Grapes self-pollinate, and they need a breeze to move the pollen around. The bay also moderates the temperatures. We don't get as stupid hot as Napa, and we don't get as stupid cold as Napa. So it's perfect farming. And the soil is same as Napa. Plate tectonics, basically, and it's a melange of different soils, just like Napa.
So this is Pacheco Ranch Winery, right?
Yeah.
And it's on just west of 101 freeway, below Ignacio Boulevard, about
Tenth of a mile.
tenth of a mile. All right, so I'm going to open up voir dire again for one
Okay.
last question. How many of us are MG owners who went to the Pacheco Ranch Winery about 6 months ago for a wine tasting? We were all there, and it was great. We had a great time. Okay, more questions?
Yes, I bought a house from the heirs of two Pacheco sisters. It's located on Review Drive in San Rafael. Are you one of the heirs? All right. Yes. I lived in that house for 20 years and was very happy.
We went skiing together, remember? We went skiing together.
This is great. This
I
is
feel
a
like we need a
reunion.
notary public here.
Yeah,
Okay.
ja,
Boy.
wir machen Skilauf zusammen.
So, when I'm in Domingo Canyon, and whenever we drive past, like, that beautiful house near the Burger King, that's what I think is the ranch, where you grow the grapes, but is that where 70 acres are?
Yeah, there's 70 acres there. There's only 10 acres of grapes.
Right.
Most of it's a rectangle that goes west up the hill.
Yeah, okay, so nobody sees how far west,
Yeah.
up the hill. But am I hiking on that when I'm on the fire roads?
Yeah, I'll shoot you.
Okay. But, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, a notary and a
I made
marshal.
that fire.
Here we go.
Hi, Herb. I was interested in the story that you gave about Camillo's gold, because the story I always heard was that Camillo buried it on his, square mile that Black left him when he bought the Valampoli, and that he buried it on that land and told his daughter, because he was drunk at the time, to remember where the gold was, but she later claimed that she didn't remember where it was. And then, of course, she moved up to up north, with her husband, and they started a big ranch up there, up, I forget the town up there. No, not Mendocino.
Healdsburg.
No, not Healdsburg, north of Healdsburg. Anyway, huh?
Cloverdale.
Willits, yeah, Willits, yeah.
I like my story better.
I like it too, it's a good story. I hope you find it.
All right, let's see if we got one or two more, and then we'll probably need to wrap up. Any other last questions? Okay, no worries. We're just going to say
Okay, yeah,
we do? Oh, didn't see it.
You never told us the origin of your last name.
Indeed. Gumacinda's youngest daughter, the baby, was Abigail Telesfora Pacheco, Grandma Gail to me. She was a beauty, a real dish. And she fell in love with searching for the word, my grandfather, Clarence Rowland. And they ran off to Canada to get married with my grandmother's brothers chasing them. But they were smart enough to have all their paperwork together. So they went to British Columbia, and when the Pachecos hit the border, they didn't have any paperwork and couldn't get across and bring her back. So they did get married and begat my father, Herbert I, only child, and then me. But Gail lived on the property in the big house with Aunt Mercy while I was growing up there. And when she died in 1967, my father, mother, sister, and I moved into the big house. But that's how the Rowlands get into the mix. And my father always pronounced it Rowland. And in court, state your appearance, Herb Rowland. Spell it R-O-W, oh, Rowland. Good morning, Mr. Rowland.
Okay. Thank you, Herb Rowland. Let me thank Herb as well as Gail and the entire gang at the History Museum. Check them out. Thank you all for coming, and our website's up there, their website's up there, and we hope to see you all again. Thank you.